Dear viewers, welcome to Lokmat Times. I am your host Tejas Doshi. In 2013, a man was shot dead on a bridge in Pune. 4 bullets in broad daylight. His crime? He spent his entire life telling people to think rationally. Dr. Narendra Dabholkar was a doctor who gave up his practice to fight something more dangerous than any disease he would ever treated: blind faith weaponized against the poor, the desperate, and the grieving. He fought for 20 years to get the Anti-Superstition and Black Magic Act passed in Maharashtra. And the day it finally happened, he wasn't alive to see it. He was killed just weeks before the bill became a law. But he left something behind. Not just a movement, a son. Dr. Hamid Dabholkar is a psychiatrist, a rationalist, and one of the key faces of the Maharashtra Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti, the organization his father built. Today, he carries this work forward in a world where the fight has only gotten more complicated. Because here is what is happening right now in Maharashtra. Godman after Godman, Baba after Baba is being exposed. Sexual assault, rape, financial fraud, women coming forward with stories that are chilling. And what makes it worse is that many of these victims are not uneducated villagers. They are working professionals, graduates, people we could never expect to be in that room. So the question isn't just how did this happen? The deeper, more uncomfortable question is why does it keep happening? To answer that, there is nobody better to speak to than the man who has spent his life studying exactly this. Please welcome Dr. Hamid Dabholkar. Sir, thank you for joining us at Lokmat Times. Sir, as I said in the intro, the cases that are coming up in Maharashtra recently, when cases like this, Ashok Kharat from Nashik or Rishikesh Vaidya from Vasai come up, where a Baba is exposed for sexual assault or rape, what is your first reaction? Is it still a shock, or by now it is a grim sense of here we go again? This is happening again.
Sadly, Tejas, the latter is the reality of Maharashtra and India in recent times because in recent years we have seen Asaram, Rampal, Ram Rahim, Baba after Baba keep on coming. Even if they are convicted, the followers still believe in them to an extent that the Ram Rahim Baba he still has influence around 8 or 9 constituencies in Punjab and Haryana, even after being convicted. So, cases like, sadly, I have to say that cases like Kharat and Vaidya have started becoming more of a normality in this post-truth era. And which is in a way very sad state of affair. As you were mentioning earlier, it was expected that as the level of education increases, superstitions will automatically vanish. But thing like that has not happened. That's what we are seeing, especially the educated, highly educated individuals are falling prey to this self-proclaimed godman, and the situation is becoming challenging day by day.
Sir, from your work with the Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti for over the years, when you look at the FIRs, the survivor testimonies, the way these Babas operate, do you see a standard playbook that these Babas follow? How do they identify or target or trap people, particularly women in such cases? Is there a playbook for them?
Yes, it's very much the same modus operandi, and if we go into the details, it most of the times start with some fraudulent claims of having supernatural power. Uh, Most times, people either at the either spectrum, so either they are basically having multiple problems in their lives and fed up by the situation itself, or on other side there is so much so greed that even whatever they have is not sufficient. So at this both spectrum, people easily fall prey to such kind of miraculous claims. If we look at Kharat, the external face of this Kharat was more of an astrologer. So they start with something as benign as astrology, but when you go into the deeper details, then it's obvious that he was claiming to have supernatural powers, having powers of tantra, mantra vidya, and then the sexual exploitation, especially for women, due to the patriarchy in our society. it's already they are under a institutional kind of a burden where talking about their grievances, their issues doesn't come very easily in the family structure. So relying on a Baba or a self-proclaimed godman can be considered as a easy way out where the exploitation starts. And then once they get entangled into his trap, then it further worsens.
And like you said, women find it very difficult to share their problems with their family. But even after these cases, even in these cases where they are even molested, sexually assaulted by these Baba, it is very difficult for them to come forward. Even in this specific case, when first case was registered, then many women found courage to go to the police and report the cases. But until the first case was not filed, the women did not come forward. So there is certainly fear, shame, or the power imbalance that they fear these babas that if we go and report such cases, something bad might happen to us. So, why do you think people are scared to report such cases?
See, we need to understand both things. Most of these Babas are very powerful, as we see in almost 9 or 10 sitting MLAs had been photographed with this Baba Kharat, and there had been lot of connections with in high political circles. So obviously, if these are flaunted on their social media and otherwise also, people know that there is a nexus between the politicians and this Baba and Bua and Buas, and then you are not going to get natural justice. So that's one thing. Secondly, most of the times in our society, rather than standing behind the victim, we keep on playing the game of victim blaming, and especially with the women. So their character is basically assassinated based on the incidences those have happened to them, where actually they need a psychological support and the support by system. The kind of a videos which are surfacing and making rounds on social media are in a way testimony of these things, that rather than providing them support, they are ridiculed and blamed for whatever has happened. And sadly, in our society, the whole idea of character is interwoven around the sexuality, and especially if you are a woman, then getting away with it becomes a very challenging scenario. Men can easily get away with it, but and then for obvious reasons, on one side there is a fear, then on other side there is a shame and guilt, and there is no hope for natural justice. Then it's very difficult for the victims to come forward and file a complaint.
So there is one question that confuses many people, including me. We can understand when uneducated people, people from villages, people in the moment of crisis go to such godmen with their problems. But when educated, urban, financially independent people sought blessing from such babas, how do you explain that? How do you think it is happening psychologically? Since you are a psychiatrist, how do you see it? Urban, independent, financially well-off people going to such people?
See, one another thing that we need to understand to disentangle this self-proclaimed godman phenomena is that, as I said earlier, as on one side there is ignorance and lack of knowledge, lack of education and fear, but on other side there is greed. So most of people who have fallen prey to this Mr. Karat, they are actually well-off people, highly educated individuals, but post globalization, with the influence of market economy, all of us are living in ye dil mange more kind of a scenario. So whatever you are gaining is not sufficient. Everybody wants more, and then there is no limit to that more. And if a person like Karat is giving you support in gaining those kind of things without not many strings attached, then I think the greed itself is a major driver, especially for this class, the politicians, the bureaucrats, and highly educated individuals. Second part we need to understand is that in our country, the education is completely divide of any. So we learn science, but we are not taught about scientific temperament. These are two different things, science and scientific temperament. Scientific temperament actually teaches us to question everything and try and figure out the cause and effect relationship between whatever is happening around us. Sadly, our education system still ridicules the person who repeatedly asks questions. And then that is one of the important reasons why in our system, generally people, though they are educated, they take advantage of all scientific innovations in form of gadgets. So we are using mobile, we are using internet, we are even using AI. But we are not using scientific temperament. And if we look at these two things together, then it becomes pretty understandable why these people are falling prey to such fraudulent claims.
So, like you mentioned earlier, something that I have observed, even in case of Ashok Kharat or be it Rishikesh Vaidya, the villagers where Ashok Kharat lived were defending him despite he was exposed. In case of Rishikesh Vaidya, also the same thing happened. We see in Asaram Bapu's case, we see in Ram Rahim's case, they get parole, they go back to their town, and there are thousands of people welcoming them. So, in the face of such evidence, in the face of conviction, the people are still loyal and dependable on these people. So is this closer to cult more than spirituality? What keeps this level of dependency even when they are convicted, even when there is evidence about them being guilty?
Yeah, so I completely agree. It actually more resonates with cults, and there is hardly any element of spirituality. Sadly, in our country, in last few years, if I've seen the kind of a polarization that has happened, which actually doesn't allow anybody to question their own dogmas. Right from the beginning, the positioning is that even in the political discourse, that whatever I am saying is right and whatever you are saying is wrong. And then people end up going to the extent to which it is possible to defend whatever their own understanding is. For changing your ideas, for changing your behavior, you need a kind of a self reflection as a part of your psyche. And sadly, as a community, we have stopped mm, encouraging people who self reflect and rectify their paths. Basically, being vociferous and then going to hill to support whatever you think is right has been becoming a culture in this country, which is very sad state of affair. In a way, it's a moral corruption that despite of conviction, people are supporting this kind of a self-proclaimed godman. It's a kind of a nexus in which the gangsters operate. The people who are indirect beneficiaries of those gangs, despite knowing that these people are bad, they keep on supporting this kind of individuals. And then there is a whole lot of financial system, because all these babas and buas operate on a budget of 1,000 crores and 10,000 crores of rupees. So there is a lot of payback that is happening. Gathering 1,000 people, if you have amassed that kind of wealth, it's not a challenging thing. Managing social media, if you have that kind of a wealth, then that also is not a challenging thing. So it's a mixed phenomena, but sadly it makes a very very disturbing inference as far as the social psyche of this country is concerned.
Right, right. I'll also briefly touch to that part that you have said. Your father used to say superstition is not problem of intelligence; it is lack of conditioning and cultural upbringing. So this conditioning and cultural upbringing is also a fault of people, we can say, because while growing up, while staying with your family, many things are said. Many things are said. You cannot question God. You cannot question this Maharaj or this Baba that we are going to, and since you listen to such things for longer period of time, it becomes conditioned in your mind that you are not supposed to question these things. So how do you view that it is not lack of intelligence but lack of conditioning and cultural upbringing?
Which is true in a sense. And then the another thing what we need to understand here is you don't need to be against God or religion to start questioning the concept of God and religion. Indian constitution gives the right of faith to its each of its citizen. So you doesn't need to be a non-believer to start questioning the concept of God and religion. There had been n number of social reformers and saints in this country, right from Buddha to Charvak to in Maharashtra, Tukaram, Jnaneshwar Maharaj to Phule Shahu Ambedkar, who actually have looked at reform of religion as a tool to work against these ill practices. So they have not denied existence of God or religion, but they have tried to reform the religion. And once you start asking questions to religion, then that's how actually religion gets reformed. So and then Indian constitution also supports this kind of reform. So when women didn't have right for education or even right for voting, uh, there were changes in form of Hindu code bill which Dr. Ambedkar proposed, and then the religion was reinterpreted. So the journey of what Dr. Narendra Dabholkar used to say is that the journey of human progress is actually the journey of reinterpretation of religion. And if we stop the culture of reinterpretation of religion, making it more appropriate to the times that we are living in, then it starts becoming radicalized, which doesn't allow anybody to ask questions, then troll the people who are asking questions to the religion, and then this becomes a central norm of our society. Sadly, that's the scenario of the current Indian state, and unless and until we start reviving the old tradition of social reformist and sense from Maharashtra and India, I think uh, the solution for it is difficult to come.
I'll also want to touch to the Anti-Superstition and Black Magic Act, which took your father gave his life fighting for this law, and it was implemented sadly after his death. And yet these cases keep coming up in our state. So, do you think there is an enforcement problem, that the law is not being enforced properly, or a single law is not enough to eradicate these practices? What do you think about it?
A bit of both, Tejas. Obviously, it's a social evil which has been there for centuries. So it's hard to imagine for anybody that a single law in couple of years can change the whole thing drastically. And falling prey to fraudulent claims like this has been a vulnerability of human mind for ages. So law is one of the mechanisms which actually can help people who are uh, getting duped. But to ensure that people don't go to such self-proclaimed godmen and they don't get exploited, obviously education is the key. As far as Anti-Black Magic Act is concerned, sadly, even after 13 years, the rules of Anti-Black Magic Act have not been framed in Maharashtra, despite of so many governments. Almost all parties have been in government in last 12 13 years, but the rules have not been framed. Maharashtra government has announced that they will have a dedicated anti-superstition cell in each police station, which also has not been actualized. There are n number of self-proclaimed godmen who are openly posting this kind of videos on their social media accounts, which anybody can see, but there is no prohibitory action which is taken on them. So there is a issue about implementation of act, but it's not the only issue. If the awareness and implementation of act are both taken into consideration hand in hand, then there will be a uh, significant change in this situation.
The one of the reason which I think behind the loose implementation is political patronage to these babas.
Yes.
Because in case of Ashok Kharat, like you mentioned, there are many pictures of him with senior leaders of almost all parties. So, as you work with the Maharashtra Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti, how difficult do you find to navigate because of such people getting political patronage or support, or being shielded by political class? How difficult it is to navigate in these circumstances?
It is one of the most important bottlenecks challenges because it has started becoming like a nexus because Baba and politicians are nowadays seen as the two sides of one coin, and they go so much hand in hand. And then whenever you start asking questions to any such self-proclaimed godman, uh, obviously the first shield that they take against all these claims is of religion, which is supported by politicians. So it becomes very challenging. So in a way, all these politicians who are going to these self-proclaimed babas and buas are doing a serious disservice to the oath that they have taken in the name of constitution, because it actually binds all of us to foster scientific temper, and their public behavior is exactly opposite to the oath that they have taken. So it's a high time that political parties also come up with code of conduct for their netas uh, on how to address these issues.
Sir, you touched upon scientific temper. It is very important. Our constitution talks about it. But if you look at today's era, we have become more educated. We have more technology. But if you go on internet, there are applications on astrology, which have millions of download. Godmen have millions of followers on social media. Tantrics now advertise on YouTube, and they sell their products like e-commerce stores. So even if we are becoming educated, even if we are having better technology, people are falling for these things even then. So how do you make sense of such contradiction?
Uh, yeah, as we discussed earlier, there is an element of lifestyle that has changed, and where uh, people, despite of having lot of things available uh, to support their daily living, are still not satisfied with what they are gaining. And I think the same thing, I will repeat, this greed for more and more is basically taking individuals to these traps which are laid very carefully on the social media by this self-proclaimed Baba and Buas. But what I will like to remind all of us is that recently Supreme Court of India has given directions in Ramdev Baba Coronil case to central government that they should come up with a mechanism which can address online fraudulent claims, especially which are health related. And then the High Court of Maharashtra, Aurangabad bench, has also given directions to Maharashtra government to start zone-wise tribunals where any fraudulent claims in social media or digital space about which are not in accordance with Anti-Black Magic Act, there should be a mechanism to address those complaints. Sadly, none of this has been actualized in Maharashtra or India. If there is a proper mechanism where people can go, because every third or fourth reel you or me see on our mobiles also has this kind of claims. So if there is a proper mechanism where people can report this and there is some action taken against them, if you make such 50 or 100 exemplary cases, this percentage will significantly go down. But unless and until this kind of action is taken, it's a inherent human vulnerability to fall prey to such claims. So state needs to come in big way as far as the control of these advertisements on social media is concerned.
I'll just ask you last two questions, and then we can end this interview, since you also have a meeting to attend. I have a question. Sir, if Dr. Narendra Dabholkar was alive today and he had witnessed whatever is happening, the cases unfolding, media coverage, the public debates, the reaction on social media, people supporting such babas, what do you think he would say? What would he focus on? What would be his stand on these issues?
I think one of the most important thing as far as this is concerned would have been implementation of Anti-Black Magic Act. Second most important thing which I think he would have pushed for is inclusion of astrology in Anti-Black Magic Act, and then strict implementation of social media and digital space related guidelines as far as these fraudulent claims are concerned. But at the same time, he always used to keep telling us is that we need to be mindful that these battles are not of years, not of decades, but of centuries, and this needs to be fought in that context also. So both these things, I think, he would have uh, advocated for.
And I think you are doing a great job at it, because the Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti has now expanded almost across all districts of Maharashtra after his death. So I think you are carrying his legacy very well. Sir, my last question: for someone watching this right now who has a family member, a parent, a sibling, deeply involved with some godman, some baba, for their problems, for their greed, as you said, and now they are worried after seeing these cases, what practical advice would you give them? How do they find out if they are being defrauded in the name of religion, in the name of spirituality, and how do they get out of it?
See, it's basically very easy thing. Whatever claims that you are falling prey to, I think one need to start asking question to those claims. If now you have AI and Google, which is available easily to you, you just ask a question to Google. What are the things which which are against this claim? What are the things which are available on Google which are against this claim? You can ask AI the same question, and it will give you n number of things which are basically we need to start and asking questions to our beliefs and try and see if there is any contrary evidence available in the available knowledge space. That's the easiest thing. If you can do that, then things will be pretty obvious. It will be a self-help more than asking help to anybody else. Second, accepting openly that you have been fooled, and then making a resolve that you will file a complaint and ensure that this will be taken to the logical conclusion. If you have any such complaints, reach out to the closest police station, or MANS has also announced its helpline. I can send you the number and you can put them in the chat box, and people can reach out to us, and then we'll be more than happy to support them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us at Lokmat Times. It
Thank you.
was really an enlightening conversation, and it would help our viewers a lot. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tejas. Thank you.